Hi, Joggies. Welcome to another episode of Study with Mr. K. Right? If you still haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and like the channel, share with your friends. Okay, this is a public channel, so you can share beyond the school, right? So today will be on tourism topic 3. Okay, and that is actually one of the more important topic for your 9 marks question. So it's on sustainable tourism. So the chapter started off with explaining. Okay, let's go on to the chapter straight. Explaining in 3.1 what are the sustainable measures or development. Okay, whereby tourism development can ensure economic sustainability, and we have actually talked about this for quite a number of things already, for quite a number of times in topic 1, so you may find this a bit repetitive. Okay, for economic sustainability, what can the tourism do, right? That is the provision of employment. Okay, so employment opportunities and income growth, okay, will ensure that there will be economic sustainability, and that will actually cause the standard of living to increase. Okay, so that is actually example Maldives, same example again, right? So that's for economic um, sustainability. And then next we move on to social sustainability. Okay, for social sustainability, okay, there will need to be a respect of authenticity of local communities and practices and art forms. And that's when I've talked about it in topic 1, whereby all these needs, the culture needs to stay authentic, okay, so that it can be sustainable. And next, we also talk about the intercultural understanding and tolerance. There must be a decent exchange between tourists and locals, to enhance understanding and tolerance. Sometimes the locals need to be understanding of that the tourists may come from a different culture, and therefore, okay, there needs to be a understanding between the two, and these will actually bring positive experiences for both the locals and tourists, and this could also lead to the growth of tourists and the sustainability of social sustainability of tourism. All right, and last but not least, we talk about the environmental sustainability. Right, so for environmental sustainability, it is talking about how tourism can actually maintain essential ecological processes, okay, whereby they are able to uh, continue to protect, okay, ecosystem services that's being provided by the nature to human. And with tourism, hopefully these ecosystem services can be enhanced, but at the same time, okay, we need to look into the stakeholders. They must work together to decrease or the rate of deforestation. They also need to ensure that there is a constant supply or sustainable supply of food and water, okay, so that environmentally in the long run, okay, the region is not being depleted of its natural resources, that these natural resources are renewable at the same time, right? So, and last but not least, we talk about the natural heritage and biodiversity are being conserved, they are being protected. So the government could actually manage tourist numbers, which many of the national parks are doing that already. Okay, so go and look through the examples, okay, in other platforms. So all these, if you realize, are actually the positive impacts of your economic, social, and environment, and it will be sustainable if the positive outweighs if the positive outweighs the negative impacts, or if the stakeholders are able to manage or reduce, okay, the negative impact, okay, then it will be able to sustain the development. It will be sustainable tourism development, right? So next we go into stakeholders, right? And this is a very big 9 marks question. There are 5 stakeholders over here. Okay, international organization, government, businesses, local, tourists. Just make sure you understand that each of these stakeholders are at different scale. For example, international organization, obviously at the international scale, government, businesses, local, and tourists usually at the local scale. So what can these stakeholders do to make sure or to really manage the being sustainable, right? How can they help to make sure that tourism they can be sustainable? For example, the government can offer consultancy and financial assistance, right? And they are able to also, sorry, not the government, the international organization can offer consultancy and assistance to and financial assistance to the locals. And there are many examples in the in your in your in your handbook. Okay, therefore if that is that, okay, they will be able to help in the sustainable development. However, if there is a lack of understanding and lack of funding, okay, it may lead to unsustainable tourism. All right, that's for international organization such as NGOs, okay, or even IGOs, okay, that may lead to unsustainable tourism. So they need to decide how much to consult, how much to assist, right? So at the government, at the national scale, on the government scale, whereby they can actually create policies, plans, and even regulation. All right, and there are many examples. Please read through them. It can be an example like Sentosa, whereby the authorities bring together stakeholders to achieve carbon neutral by 2030. That's a very good example. However, if there is poor enforcement on any of these, okay, because okay because of economic development, because they prioritize economic development, these will lead to unsustainable tourism again, right? So when we look into the other two, which is businesses and also locals, okay, you can see that it's all about the decisions, business decisions that's being made, okay, by businesses, and decisions that is being made by locals, because they are the ones managing they are the ground people, right? What we call them as the people that's actually facing the tourist, right? If they are able to change some of their working business model, change how they think, okay, that will lead to sustainable development. However, okay, sometimes a lot of times businesses and locals, they have different understandings and ways of measurement, okay, in terms of sustainability, right? Business can say, oh, this is sustainable enough for me, but locals may think otherwise. This is not sustainable. This will make me lose whatever that has been providing me with a livelihood to be lost. So there are many different kind of understanding. There are many different priorities. There are many different kind of measurement. So all these may lead to unsustainable tourism. Last but not least, okay, there is also the tourists. The tourists, okay, they need to be able to generate a genuine interest, because some tourists, when they travel, they do not really care about the environment, the culture, or the economy of the place that they are visiting. True to be told, right? And that could lead to some of them maybe perhaps just overdoing or over consuming. Okay, they can even destroy some of the ecosystem services that's being provided by pollution, right? So when I went to Hanoi recently, at Halong Bay, one of the world one of the UNESCO heritage site. It has been protected, but all I see on the sea or at Halong Bay were trashed. Trashed by who? Most likely the tourists. Water bottles, plastics, right? And that was an awful sight. So it is actually the decision of the tourist whether they have a genuine interest in following the guidelines and in genuinely just wanting to go Halong Bay to enjoy the scenery, to learn more about it, to be educated about it, but at the same time to protect the environment of Halong Bay, right? So that needs to be a mindset shift, okay, for tourists, right? And all these whatever I'm talking about, it may not be found in your guidebook. I'm trying to make sense of how you can actually evaluate your factors. Okay, at the end of the day, there are huge challenges. Okay, there are huge challenges. Okay, like I mentioned, different stakeholders have different way of explaining what is sustainable, right? And different stakeholders have different control over their resources, right? And some government have more say, sometimes government have more say, sometimes they may not. Sometimes the business have more say, sometimes they may not, so on and so forth. So whoever that has more say needs to be the voice of sustainable development. It cannot be that voice, it cannot be the stakeholder that has the most say, and yet at the same time just want to prioritize economic development, just want to reap the economic benefits of tourism and not care about the locals or even the tourists, right? And last but not least, why would that be a challenge? Because there are different priorities, like I mentioned, which can make negotiation very, very challenging. Like for example, locals want to limit the number of tourists, but the government don't want, because it may reduce tourism revenue. As simple as that. So ultimately, they need to understand there will be trade-offs, and can the stakeholders accept these trade-offs at their individual level, right? And that is the enduring understanding whereby country A versus country B, they are always very different. They need to capitalize on different benefits and outcomes of tourism in order for it to be sustainable. Country A, perhaps a stakeholder of government is the strongest, so government makes the decision, right? However, for country B, the locals make the decision, but are those decisions the right decisions? That's my question. Are those decisions the best decisions that have considered all the trade-offs, that they have weighed the trade-offs, right? So to manage the sustainable development, right? So that is one question for you. Okay, so that is 3.2. Let us move on to 3.3. Okay, 3.3 is about strategies. Okay, it is about strategies, and there are 3 strategies, and each of these strategies are very important. They are not exclusive of each other. They can work with each other. Okay, they can be present. Okay, these are just approaches, different kinds of approaches that we are looking at. Okay, for ecotourism, okay, basically it is to educate. Basically, it is to reduce negative impact of on the environment, and there are different types. One is hard and the other is soft. So what is hard? Hard is basically the ones that are very difficult to attain, or rather very difficult to move for tourism, but there are people who are still interested, so this will attract a small group of tourists. Okay, it could be hiking Mount Everest, so on and so forth. These are hard ecotourism. Soft ecotourism, usually mass market tour operators many people can go, often very high-end accommodation, right? So that is that. But there are limitations for ecotourism. Okay, there are limitations. Firstly, okay, ecotourism, for it to be successful, it needs to be there needs to be continuous efforts in conserving nature. There needs to be continuity. And on the other hand, okay, there also needs to be a continuity of involving, okay, the local communities, right, for it to be sustainable. However, some of these local communities they may not be sufficiently equipped with the skills or knowledge, and sometimes, okay, there's not enough time, there's not enough resources to train these locals. So therefore, locals do not benefit. So that is that. So with that in mind, let us now move on to the next strategy or approach, okay, which is CBT, community-based tourism. For community-based tourism, right, it is about decision making. Okay, just now we talked about stakeholders making the whichever that has the most say makes the decision. This is giving back the decision making to the locals. So the local communities, they are the ones to make decisions, and in order for it to be sustainable, they need to make the right decisions for it to be sustainable, right? And for economic and social impact, okay, there need to be a measures to increase the economic and social impact of positive social economic and social impact for the locals, right? The locals need to be encouraged to innovate. The locals need to be able to see that there's income being generated, so then it will be sustainable, right? And last but not least, there must be education. Okay, education is very important. Education, we are talking about the interactions between locals and tourists. Okay, the educating tourist appreciation for local culture is important for it to be sustainable. If the tourists do not uh, appreciate the local cultures and why certain environments being protected, it may backfire and lead to a negative impact of, like for example just now the Halong Bay, right? The example of Halong Bay. Okay, so what are the limitations? Okay, there is loss of culture. Okay, sometimes over commodification, as mentioned, these are negative impacts, right, of social negative social impacts. Okay, so and then the next is really competition with large scale tourism development. Sometimes CBT, they are too small to compete. They are too small to compete with the large scale tourism development, and sometimes they do not have the skill, they do not have the ability to communicate with tourists, and therefore, okay, this that this competition, they may lose it to the large scale tourism businesses, right? So yeah, and last but not least is the pro-poor tourism. Pro-poor tourism uh, focuses on improving the livelihood of the poor. Okay, they focus on decreasing the poverty. They focus they focus on training and microfinancing, right? So training will be provided to the locals. Microfinances will be provided to the locals to start small businesses, and basically any CBT can be classified as PPT if the poor is being um, if the poor has benefited from it as well, right? And it is important to note there are limitations. Okay, the ability to decrease poverty, it is still questionable. Does it really decrease poverty? Okay, so this is a debate. Is it better to give a fish, or is it better to train them how to fish? Even if you train them how to fish, can they fish sustainably, right? And next, it is about the uneven distribution. Uneven distribution talks about the economic benefits that is being unevenly distributed, and this will actually cause an income gap between the poor, right? Do the poor really benefit? Can they benefit the most, right? So basically, you cannot just involve the poor in this whole business. However, the poor should be the center for pro-poor tourism, because you're supporting them, you're helping them, right? They should be getting more benefits than the businesses or locals or other locals, right? So there's are the few approaches on sustainable development. Last, we look at 3.4. Okay, 3.4, that is to development. How do we continue developing sustainably, right, for tourism? First of all, there must be sustainable tourism production. Okay, your ecosystem services, demands on the ecosystem services should never exceed the supply. Once it exceeds the supply of resources, carrying capacity is being maxed out, this will cause a problem. Very, very big problem, right? Next, we talk about different stakeholders that needs to work together. Okay, it cannot be just the locals working by themselves. They will definitely be outtaken or outbid by the large-scale development. Businesses should come together with locals. Government should come together. All the stakeholders should come together to adopt responsible long-term sustainable approaches, right? So on the other hand, okay, there is also the sustainable tourism consumption. Okay, tourist destination region, they need to manage the demand of tourists, okay, and they need to ensure that tourists consume responsibly. Okay, when you and I visit a certain country, please make sure that you embrace sustainable measures. If you are saving water in Singapore, right, when you travel out, do the same thing. Habits shouldn't change. For example, you don't litter in Singapore, but when you go overseas, some Singaporeans go overseas, be surprised. Don't be surprised, okay? They may just anyhow litter because that's not their country. They don't care, right? So that is when tourists actually gives a halo effect to these tourists, whereby, oh, I'm traveling overseas, I'm a king overseas, I don't care about this place, I'm just gonna come here, enjoy the resources, and then go back to my own country, full stop. That is not a responsible tourist mindset. We all need to change, right? Next, we talk about the locals. Okay, policies gives local primary attention while considering the needs of tourists. These need to be done to protect locals. Locals are most of the time being the lowest in the chain. What do I mean by that? In the hierarchy, usually the locals stand at the lowest. This is the local. Why is that so? Because they are the ones that can be manipulated. They are the ones that earns the least. Okay, because let's say, for example, $100, right? You may say, oh, $100, maybe $80 should go to the locals, so on and so forth, and the other layers maybe 20, 10, blah blah blah, so on and so forth. But that is usually not the case, right? The locals usually get the least, maybe $10, while others, they'll be given more, but they're on different scale. The government, the businesses, they're on different scale. So why are locals not getting their well-deserved money? It's because there are many layers in tourism, and that leads me to the last point on equitable distribution, right? We need to achieve equitable distribution for tourism development to be sustainable. If not, you will see a country with huge amount of tourists coming in, okay, resources being depleted because consumption is high from the tourist side. The locals are suffering because they are not earning enough. They are scrambling. They are at the foot of this, they are at the bottom of this chain, and therefore they are not getting the income that's being distributed. They are not enjoying the benefits of tourism, especially the economic benefits, right? And when that happens, when that actually happens, okay, your stakeholders who actually enjoy most benefits, who? Sometimes it could be government, sometimes it could be businesses. These are usually the big two. Locals are usually the ones that suffer. And when they take enough benefits, they can just leave the place. For businesses, for international businesses especially, they can just leave the place, go to and find another place, exploit again. So interestingly, tourism has worked in such a very unsustainable manner. That's why we are learning about this. So in any case, if any of you were to go into the tourist industry, you'll realize that it is a very difficult industry. How is it that the stakeholders can achieve can come together to weigh the trade-offs, and how can they distribute the benefits equally between all of them, or even not equally, right? And these benefits really transit or translate, okay, be translated to the locals, can they? So that is all these things that I'm talking about is really your evaluation portion, right? At the end of the day, how do we do sustainable tourism? This is the last topic, right? It is really about this 1, 2, and 3 here. Use this as a evaluation. Use this as an evaluation, right? Use this as an evaluation for all your essays in tourism. Okay? Alright, that's all for Study with Mr. K. Thank you and have a good day. Please like and subscribe.